As long, now we're going on to lecture 3, as long as the outside secular non-fundamentalist world has not been concerned with the quiescent fundamentalists, allow them to live their lives. They're off, they're alone, they don't bother us, we're not going to bother them. As long as that goes on, fundamentalism can remain quiescent. But when the sense of threat becomes great, when the outside world seeps in beyond what is tolerable, then the fundamentalists who have been quiescent, when they have been disturbed by what they consider radicalism, blasphemy, the infidel, something that has come too close to their world, either something that has come into their community, come into their network, come into their children, then that quiescence, which is essentially unstable because the outside world is ever reaching, ever seeking to become overwhelming, then this culture war erupts between the fundamentalists who seek to be holistic, complete, and the outside world, which also seeks cultural assimilation. Then the struggle goes on, and quiescent fundamentalists become, well, traditionalists become fundamentalists, and quiescent fundamentalists become active. Who are the active fundamentalists? Well, they're not different in their outlook from the quiescent fundamentalists. They believe the same sorts of things, but they also have come to believe that the only way to fight back is not in passive resistance, not in keeping the outside world at bay, not in remaining just in their enclaves, but active resistors. Active resistors become active fundamentalists. That is, they turn passivity into a radical stance, and they can get others to act with them by persuading them that we have reached a point of crisis. And how do we convince the quiescent fundamentalists that we have reached a point of crisis? We point out to them a variety of issues, which we say, look, if you don't act, this will happen. Your children will lose the faith. Your wives will become radicalized and take over from the men. The religious beliefs that you hold dear will be undermined. Your churches, your synagogues will be closed. All that you hold to be absolutely critical will be taken away from you. And so it is very necessary that the active fundamentalists uncover issues that the followers, the sort of rank and file, who have been satisfied to just remain in their quiescent stance, will find insidious and corrosive. They must convince them that we can no longer live as we have been. We have to take the fight to the street. We can no longer be the silent majority. We must become the controlling majority. We are the defenders of the faith. We must go out and defend and guard the faith and the religion, because if we do not do that, then we will be vanquished, even though we should not be vanquished. That is, often they make the case, as we have said before, that history has gone awry. It was not supposed to happen this way. It was supposed to be changed. And unless we act now, we will have lost the battle. We must wrest control of the society, wrest control of the United States, wrest control of Afghanistan, wrest control of Israel, wherever they find themselves. The active fundamentalists say that we can no longer expect that they, our enemies, will remain distant, and that we here will remain protected. There is no real defense. Or to borrow from the language of football, the best defense is an offense. Keep the other side off its game. Keep them, particularly if they're weak, if they're distracted. So quiescent fundamentalism becomes active fundamentalism. And it is by and large destined to become active fundamentalism, because the world is a place where no one can really remain untouched by modernity. We all rub shoulders in uncomfortable ways, particularly in the cities. And because, as we've already showed you, fundamentalism thrives when it has an opponent, the other, whom we don't want to be like. It always puts itself in proximity to that other, and you can be sure that that proximity will at some point or another lead to a feeling of crisis, and that that crisis will lead to active fundamentalism. So now we have talked about quiescent and active fundamentalism. We've talked about the four kinds of fundamentalism that Haddon discusses, and we will have one more lecture coming up, which will discuss one of the other elements of fundamentalism, the essentials of fundamentalism, and in that lecture we will also review all of the 11 or 12 elements that make up the essentials of fundamentalism, which will probably be the content of your first paper.